Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, the California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation. This is March 16th, 2021, Tuesday, and it is 9:30 a.m. I'd like to call a meeting to order at this time and establish a quorum. Okay. Just want to remind everyone that people who are joining us via link that are not on the panel, we will not be able to see at this time until they're brought into the panel for discussion. At this time, I'd like to call on Director Bada to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, President Parsons. Please rise, everybody. I hope your phones are all on silent or mute or whatever. And put your hand on your right, on your chest, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, we'll acknowledge the media at a distance. Approval of the agenda. And I hear a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Thank you,
I
Amy.
second.
Okay,
I second.
Donna and Kush seconded. Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll consider this by common consensus and move to item 5, approval of the minutes for February 16th, 2021, regular board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, Debbie, is there a second? Lynn seconds. Any discussion on these minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider that by common consensus as well. Okay, report of the chair. I know people have been waiting for us to provide answers to questions that were given at the members meeting in January. So I want to start with one today and talk about insurance. What I'll do is give a brief overview of it and answer some of the comments. And then Director Muchnick is going to give us a quick update on where we are and where we're going. So to start with, this is about insurance questions and comments addressed from the following members: James Cook, Ernest Dimba, Bonaventure Ng, Catherine Freshley, John H., Bob Hatch, Lelang Isaacs, Frank Kern, Margaret Klein, Art Kolovitsky, Vicki M., Alfred and Nadine McNair, Carol Moore, Lori Rodmacher, and Susan Smallwood. Article 11 of the CC&R spells out insurance requirements. We must insure for full replacement value of $1.6 billion. The dollar figure was formerly $700 million. The insurance companies demanded a reevaluation since we hadn't been reevaluated for 20 years. To our knowledge, no previous attorneys have brought up this matter. An insurance task force is already in place working on our insurance needs and costs. An update is going to be presented at each board meeting, and as you'll notice, we'll be doing it right after my talk here. Probable maximum loss, or PML, will not work for Third Mutual. The PML is $150 million, which is not considered sufficient for the vast majority of our lenders, nor is it considered appropriate by the federal agencies that purchase most of the loans. One major catastrophe could easily cost us $500 million to $700 million. Insuring for some multiplier of the PML would only work if the multiplier was sufficiently large. 1 or 2 times the PML multiplier would leave us vastly underinsured. Up until 2020, the insurance companies, mainly Travelers, were satisfied with the evaluation being used by the village. Last year, Travelers, which ensures a primary level for the village, indicated that they would not continue insuring us without a new independent evaluation. It had nothing to do with current or past attorneys. The CC&R stipulated that we are to insure for 100% replacement cost. Now on to total premiums. The total premium cost for all the different insurances Third is responsible for obtaining and maintaining for 2021 is $4.9 million. The disaster fund, which is not a reserve fund, can and is used to help underwrite the cost of the increased premiums for this year and this year only. Approximately $2.8 million is being used from the disaster fund to help cover insurance premiums for this year. The disaster fund cannot continue to underwrite insurance premiums for more than this single year. Special assessments for insurance are not anticipated. We have a separate budget line item for insurance. The third board understands the impact of the anticipated rise in insurance premium and sought to partially offset the cost by raising the monthly HOA by $20. While the board was aware that there were going to be other rising costs, such as outside services and employee compensation, that would have to be factored into the budget for 2021. The third board made a conscious decision not to raise the monthly HOA assessments by more than $20. While a vast majority of the $20 increase is going to the increased cost of insurance premiums, with the balance coming this year from the disaster fund, the budget for 2021 also reflects increases in other areas. The other option for the board would have been to reduce or curtail other services if the HOA assessment was not increased. We do not use legally mandated reserves to pay for insurance. The insurance costs fluctuate, and we are now in negotiations with our new insurance broker. Question came forward about replacement costs. No lender drives the cost for our insurance. Replacement cost is the actual cost to replace an item or structure at its pre-loss condition. The replacement cost is different from the sale price. The market value helps to determine the sale cost of the manor. Another question came in about shared costs. At this time, there are no plans to change the current shared cost method of assessments on manors to a model based on the square footage size of a manor. Another question came in about insured individual submutuals. The answer is it would be too costly to insure individual submutuals. And at this time, no formal research has been done on partnering with other communities to form self-insurance cooperatives. Initial information suggests this would not really be an option, since we do not have sufficient reserve funds to participate in such an endeavor as being self-insured. More research is needed to see if FEMA would be helpful in time of a major catastrophe, yet to be decided. Some members suggested that we address insurance separately on the next vote. While this is a possibility, the board is not considering this approach at this moment. At this time, I'll turn it over to Director Muchnick to tell us where we are and where we're going.
Thank you, President Parsons. Let me share with everybody what I think we hope is some good news. Know that the board is actively addressing the insurance issue to the best of its ability. To that end, we have recently employed the services of a brand new broker. That broker is A.J. Gallagher. A.J. Gallagher is now, as of yesterday, our brand new broker for this year. and will take over the current policies that we have, as well as certificates of insurance as needed by members of Third Mutual. A.J. Gallagher is the third largest broker in the United States, and they have offices worldwide. And they currently represent and have represented Walnut Creek for the last 10 years. Walnut Creek is up in the San Francisco area, and it's an HOA that is similar in size to Third Mutual, similar in age, similar in construction, and in terms of its fire risk, it's also very similar, actually, if not worse off than we are, because they're surrounded by trees. And A.J. Gallagher was able to get for Walnut Creek $1.2 billion in coverage for this year, where our broker, Beecher Carlson, our former broker, let me say, was only able to get $700 million and said that it was not possible to get anything more than that. Also, you should know that Gallagher was able to get the $1.2 billion for Walnut Creek at not much more than what we're paying for the $700 million this year. So we have every expectation that A.J. Gallagher will be able to gain insurance for us at a rate that is much more reasonable than what we're currently paying. And the fact that they have a worldwide reach that Beecher Carlson didn't have should assist with that process. And right now, A.J. Gallagher is looking into our crime policy, which is one of the policies we carry, because that's up on the 25th of March. So that's where we are right now. And the other thing that A.J. Gallagher is doing in terms of our current insurance situation is looking into the possibility of canceling and renewing our insurance and setting a date now so that we don't have the problem of the October 1 renewal, where we've already set the budget without knowing what our insurance costs are going to be. So we're very positive at this point about the moving forward, and that brings everybody pretty much up to date on where we are. Thank you.
Very much, Robert. Okay, at this time, we will go into the open forum. I'd like to make some pre-comments here. We are at a 3-minute time limit per speaker, and we ask that no more than 2 people speak on the same topic. If you want to speak on the same topic, we will ask you to not continue with your comment as it has been given previous. So at this time, we'll open it up to comments from our residents.
All right.
Grant, would you like to take anybody that's on the meeting?
Sure. Should we do that first? That sounds good. I will bring forth. Please state your name and man number before you give your comment. The first comment is from Jules Zellon. I will move him over to the panelist.
Go ahead. You're muted.
Okay.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. For 6 months, we focused exclusively on 2 campaigns. The board's attempt to ram down our throats an ill-considered CC&R ballot initiative and our counter-proposal to adopt the 3 goals listed in our special meeting petition. But the board has suddenly lost its voice. What are they waiting for? They have a duty to deal with these issues openly. Since they don't involve litigation, contracts, member discipline, or personnel matters, they can't take place behind closed doors. What are we to make of their silence? 2 possibilities exist. They're either ignoring their fiduciary duty, failing to address the most serious issues we faced in years, or they're handling it in private, violating the Open Meetings Act. So which is it, directors? We've been asking for just 3 things. 1, outright rejection of the draft CC&Rs. 2, solely focus on insurance, which Bob had just talked about. And 3, creation of task forces to listen to the members' wishes. They're found in those 600 plus special meeting petitions, the 365 proxies we collected in just a week, and the unanimous vote we forced them to witness at our special meeting. Isn't it time they told us how or whether they'll be responding? There's a related problem. This board discusses important issues in executive session, preventing us members from observing important decision-making in violation of the Open Meetings Act. In my short tenure on this board, all sorts of truly absurd decisions were made in closed session. Here are just a few. One, the hugely expensive insistence on conducting unnecessary, formal, uncontested elections when our bylaws allow election by acclamation. The lawyer says we needed to do that. We did not. The even dumber decision to seek an unnecessary statutory amendment that was vetoed by Governor Brown on the grounds that it was unnecessary, what I have been saying. The destructive refusal to protect members from fly-by-night contractors. And what do you know? Every one of those illogical, expensive decisions was made in closed session with the urging of the board's lawyer. Had the members known these issues existed, they might have made enough noise to change the board's mind. What I've said may be hard to swallow, but the board has an obligation to deal with these topics out in the open. Thank you.
Jules? Next.
Our next comment is from Karen Shore.
Hi, Karen. Welcome. You're muted.
Okay, I
There
should
you
be
go.
unmuted now. Thank you.
There you go.
Yes, my name is Karen Shore. I reside at 4012 Calle Sonora Oeste, 3G. As open session comes after the reading of the minutes, and I raised my hand but was not addressed at that time, I wish to request a consideration of my comment now during open session. I read that the minutes from the February 3rd board meeting contains inaccuracies in section 9 of the CEO report. The second to the last paragraph states that the VMS director, DiLorenzo, commented that inaccurate information had been reported through social media by one of the VMS directors. There will be a closed meeting today to consider disciplinary action against board member. In actuality, the VMS board president actually stated that she read on social media about the total inaccuracies reporting information about the conduct of the VMS board, then stated it was false, and as to the process and the actions taken by the board. This information, as she says, leading us to believe that a VMS board member breached confidentiality, and that they, the VMS board, planned to get to the bottom of it. That's what actually happened. So she did not know the information even came from a VMS director at that time and could not have stated that disciplinary action was being considered. Again, an inappropriate statement because she said they were getting to the bottom of it. Mei Wing Tao also spoke during that meeting in February, which was not even recorded in the minutes, reporting on myself, Karen Shore's, accusations of the VMS board are absolutely false. Why was her participation in the meeting omitted? I'd like to request that the third board consider making a correction to the February minutes that you've already approved, to do that at this time. Thank you.
Next.
That concludes the Zoom speaker requests.
Okay, do we have any written comments?
Yes, we do. Honorable Board, the first comment is from Constance Arnold, who lives at 5021 Hardin. I want you to know that I'm against the restated CCNRs. There are just too many regulations included in one vote. Insurance is a problem that must be addressed, but other items such as parking in my own driveway should not be included. Please break this down by line item. The next comment is from Martha Spalding at 878D. Dear board members, having reviewed the proposed social media policy prepared, I presume, by Village Council, I am confused. Why would such a gag order, which attempts to control not only current but former board members' activities on social media, be needed? Has someone posted something so egregious that such a draconian solution is warranted? As if I were a current or former board member, I would be offended by such a gag order. As a newspaper reporter, I covered hundreds of city council, village board, county boards, boards of education, budget committee, appropriations committee, and similar meetings. Policies varied, but each and every one understood that official business must be conducted in open. Gag orders are not appropriate. Perhaps board members' education is. If there have been social media posts that were of concern, please address them. These individuals directly. The blanket suppression is not a solution. The next comment comes from Darlene Bacchus, who lives at 4023A. Why are residents responsible for an IT network in the village? The system has been down since October 18th, 2020 for 5 months. In researching large companies' IT network systems, each company reported they were down hours, huge corporations 3 days. We pay for IT staff services through our HOA fees. Why are they responsible? When will this be resolved? How much ransom did they pay? After ransom payment, why are we still partially down? How is there any connection between buying a unit in Laguna Woods and IT network outages? Kindly explain. And I believe what she's referring to in the subject matter, each unit sold in Laguna Woods Village escrow withholds $10,000. The next comment is from Gary Fredericks. And let's see here. He lives at 5494A. I disagree with and raise an objection to the implementation of the barbecue grill policy as reported in the Laguna Woods Globe on February 18th for Third Mutual residents. The article states that existing open flame grills in multi-story buildings can continue to be used. In the following paragraph, the article indicates that the policy would prohibit charcoal grills mutual-wide. There's no similar stated grandfather clause for charcoal grill owners. I currently own a large charcoal grill. I live in a single-story duplex, not a multi-story building. My grill is outside on my open patio. My patio is not covered. There's no possibility of my grill setting the building on fire. When I moved in a little over 2 years ago, I specifically asked if charcoal grills were permitted, and the answer I got was affirmative. I would ask that the board reconsider its motion, as it was reported in the Globe, to allow owners in single-story units with open porches to continue to be able to use their charcoal grills, as the board has allowed for multi-story gas grill owners. It only seems fair to me. The next comment is from James Southworth at 3243 San Amadeo, Unit 1D. Let me frame my comments from a personal professional perspective. My career of nearly 40 years was as a municipal CEO, CAO. I was a city manager and a city administrator. I served as a nonpartisan, non-elected public servant. I was not elected, I was hired. I carefully maintained my nonpartisanship through my career, which included working for 50 elected city council members, including 14 mayors. I have been a participant in nearly 2,000 public meetings per the Open Meetings Law. On a daily basis, any person could easily reach me. Phone calls were not screened, and my personal address and phone number were in the phone book. I was subject to all sorts of public scrutiny and routinely interviewed by the paper, radio, and TV. I accepted that to serve the community, my family and I lived in a glass house. With that background, upon reading the proposed social media policy, I must say I'm absolutely astonished that someone would suggest such a policy in the first place, and further, that the boards would even consider it. You have been elected to serve your constituents through the association, and that includes respecting diverse opinions of other officials. It's not that hard for your constituents to distinguish between the position of the group and a personal opinion of an individual member. I've reviewed several communications in opposition to this policy, and I generally concur with those I've seen. So I will not bore you with more arguments other than to say this proposed policy is wrong and flies in the face of good public service. This is a bad public policy. It diminishes us. One of my first city council bosses who became a friend told me in the late 1970s, Jim, someone needs to look out for the little guy. I tried to live up to that standard throughout my career. I encourage you and the board to consider that standard too, to stand up for the little guy in this village, be open to all opinions, and respect everyone's right to speak and to be heard. Please vote soundly to reject the social media policy. Very truly yours. The next comment is from Pat Dennekamp at 3218B. We had termites a few years ago in the 2x4s over the walkway. I noticed the droppings and notified BMS. It was fixed and they were shocked at how bad the damage was. We had to replace more than they thought, but the rest of the house was never inspected. Anyway, so is there any way someone comes to inspect our homes more often? We had one wall on the side completely replaced years ago also. Thank you. The next comment is from Karen Shore, 4012, Calle Sonora, Oeste 3G. Dear Third Mutual Board members, my comments to you are regarding the proposed social media policy. I do not support this policy for the Third Mutual and will use the very wording of the draft policy to make my points to convince you to vote no. I quote the policy here. Even if the representatives state that they are communicating in an unofficial capacity by virtue of their position, they inherently convey that they speak with authority and from knowledge that may not be publicly known, and their statements and opinions may thus carry more weight than those of other residents due to their position on the board or a committee. This statement is no reason to censor a board member's use of social media forums. To prove my point, I have a question for you all. If a board member made an allowable comment, and I repeat, an allowable comment in response to a question about an issue before the board while eating dinner at Restaurant 19, would they not speak with some authority and possibly carry more weight? Certainly they would. By the very nature of attending a board meeting, they easily could have more knowledge of issues than someone who may not attend board meetings. There's no difference between a dinner conversation in public and comments on a social media page regarding allowable comments. To again quote the policy, representatives of the mutual may wish to communicate with other residents regarding certain allowable mutual related information to clarify information being circulated on social media. That is incorrect. The policy requires a board member, upon reading social media posts, to first report back to the attention of the board so that the board or an executive committee can prepare an official response with the assistance of legal counsel. Our mutual board members are in the ideal position to discuss allowable issues on social media to clarify incorrect information, just as public officials are. As is described in the 2021 law passed in California, Assembly Bill 992, this law is titled The Brown Act Meets Social Media. Before any board member even considers voting on this fairly poorly constructed social media policy that attempts to censor you and micromanage you, you should read the law. AB 992 pertains only to public officials, not HOA board members, but this is a much more reasonable model that meets today's social media environment and can provide you with practical guidance. Sound guidance may be all that is needed, as Davis Sterling already covers law, which limits board member communication regarding confidential matters. The social media policy written by your attorney reads more like a McCarthy-era loyalist oath than sound guidance. A yes vote on the social media policy will only provide greater use of your HOA fees as income to the attorney and waste more of your time chasing accusations of violations to this unnecessary policy. Residents want our boards to be fair and ethical as they take care of mutual-related matters, not concerned with social media, while relatively few residents of Laguna Woods Village actually participate in it regularly. I ask you to vote no to the social media policy.
Time has expired. 3 minutes.
And then I will note that we did have a number of comments submitted through Susan Smallwood, and those have been delivered to the directors. And I think the decision was that since those have been delivered and they did not come in through the meeting at the board has taken delivery of those.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go first to Jules's comments, and I'd open up this to any board member who would like to make a comment. If you would show yourself that you would like to do this. I will talk about the CC&Rs first. Jules, you keep bringing this up, and we have stated numerous occasions, I even said today, that going forward with what we did before is not being considered at this time. As far as insurance is concerned, you should have heard my previous comment on insurance, and I think that brings you up to date on that. We are moving forward on it. We are working with Fannie Mae on a waiver that would help us, but we hope to have the cost down. But as far as dealing with our CC&Rs, that's another matter that we will be looking at in the future. As far as task forces, we have looked at this a little bit. We think if your comment on that, we may move forward on that. That's yet to be decided. As far as things that are brought up in executive session by Davis Sterling, they are to remain in an executive session. Whether or not they are brought up for certain reasons, what takes place there stays in that area. And I think a lot of people would be happy that it did, because it would cause a lot of problems elsewhere, and it would drive possible problems in the future. Uncontested elections, I will talk to you about that, since I've actually talked to a person who was there at the legislature when this came forward. This was a hotly contested issue, people on both sides, and it basically came down to there was no law allowing uncontested elections, and that being if you have 3 openings, you have 3 people apply, they could just be installed based on that. It was hotly contested, and it finally came out in a law that clarified everything. So you brought this up numerous times. I suggest if you want to continue, that you go ahead and get a hold of the legislature and find out how that was handled there. But that's what we have heard from people that were in attendance at those meetings. Anybody else want to chime in on Jules's items that we brought forward? Okay, on to Karen Shore. And this deals with our minutes here, confidentiality. I think that she is referring to agenda item 5A, page 3 of 17, where there's a comment just 3 paragraphs up from the bottom. And I'll turn this over to Jeff if he has, or Siobhan, if they have a little clarification on this they want to bring forward.
I can hang on just a second, get to that page. But that you're referencing the minutes with regards to the president or chair of the VMS made a comment with regards to the investigation or what was being looked at with regards to information that had been disclosed in the public that was in closed session. As you've indicated, closed session indicated in information is protected, and therefore if there is a leak or information out there in the public that's coming out of closed session, and that's inappropriate, and that was being looked at.
And I'll ask Director Jarrett, since we're recording just what was said, is there any action we need to take on this paragraph?
Yeah, I couldn't hear her, so I'm going to have to clarify that.
Okay, I think I'll just read what the reference is I think she's referring to.
Okay.
It's VMS Director De Lorenzo commented that inaccurate information has been reported through social media by one of our VMS board members. There will be a closed meeting later today to consider disciplinary action against the board member. Do we need to change it?
I'll make make that change. Thank you.
Okay, my question is, do we need to change it since it's a comment by our VMS board?
Usually we don't even put comments in the minutes from individuals. That's not the normal procedure. I was thinking that you wanted me to put it in the minutes, but we usually don't do that.
Now, it's in there now, and I think that's what Karen Shore was referring to. I see no need to change it since we're reporting what VMS Director De Lorenzo commented on.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but Karen, thanks for bringing that forward.
I'll take care of it.
It's a matter of confidentiality that needs to be taken up by the VMS board, as I see it at this time. Okay, on to Constance Arnold. Talks about she doesn't agree with CC&Rs being restated. We have commented on that earlier with Jewel Xylon's comments, as well as my comment on insurance. Is there any comment anybody wants to make on her comment? Okay, moving forward. Martha Spalding on the social media policy. We will take that up. And Jim's Southwest comments when we come to the social media policy, as well as Karen Shore's. Okay, so we'll jump over those for now. Come back to them later. Darlene Bacchus, IT network being down so long. Jeff or Siobhan, would you like to take that and respond to it?
Yes, President Parsons. The comment that was made by Darlene had to do with there is in practice right now when escrow is going through, there is a requirement to have a $10,000 deposit held in escrow until all of the manner alterations or moisture intrusion events are addressed and categorized and made sure that any costs associated with a transfer of property is appropriately charged against the manor's owner, and also any other fees that may be still not paid yet. That process goes through at this point in time through all of our departments and gets cleared. Some of that information that was on file was the information that was damaged by the IT incident that she's referencing. So what was occurring was that we, during that whole time, we had the real estate departments and the real estate agents that were asking us to close escrow within 30 days. And because of the malware situation, in order to clear those documents, and that under our operation at that time, the policy was until that is cleared, you can't close an escrow. Well, that was causing escrows to get delayed as much as 60 days. So we worked with the real estate agents and brokers and talked about putting a deposit up, which if cleared and when cleared through that escrow process gets reimbursed to the seller in this case. And so we just put that on there to protect the mutuals, in this case, both United and Third, to make sure that we weren't closing any escrows too soon and then you'd be on the hook for work. So once we, now with our IT and our malware being resolved and getting our paperwork back and getting our operations back in order, we will be able to transition back to the situation where we no longer are going to require the $10,000 deposit in the future. But we will be reverting back to everything's got to be cleared by Third and approved by manner alterations and all of that and finance be cleared before a escrow closes. So really what this was an attempt was to meet the needs of the brokers and to speed up the process, which we couldn't do at the time because of the malware incident. And like I said, if somebody pays a deposit and then we get the information and get it cleared, that deposit is returned.
Any other comments on this? Okay?
Steve, can
Yeah.
I ask Jeff a question?
Go ahead.
Jeff, when do you expect this to be cleared?
Well, we're going
Meaning,
through.
when will you stop doing this?
I don't have a
Go ahead.
specific date for you, Kush. We are updating and moving forward with our improvements in manner alterations as we speak. We'll be talking about that in just a minute, but we are catching up with our data. So I would anticipate probably in the next 2 to 3 months we'll be in a position where we can reevaluate this $10,000 deposit.
2 to 3 months, you're going to hold people's money, $10,000 a pop? That's ridiculous. 2 to 3 weeks maybe is a good time.
The key is we have to be in a position where if we go back to your current policy, which says everything must be cleared in order to release an escrow, we want to make sure that we can release escrows as soon as possible, which was the challenge and working relationship we had with the brokers. This was a compromise in relationship that we had with the brokers because they wanted escrows to close in 30 days. And at that point in time, and even currently right now, we don't have the ability to process an agreement for a land sale to go through manner alterations, moisture intrusion, and all our departments and get that completed in 30 days. That is our goal, that we want to be able to process that like that. But until we're in that position, we were trying to make it easier for people to close quicker.
So what that means is if there's a buyer who wants to buy and move in, won't be able to move in for 2 to 3 months?
No.
If they cannot close escrow?
No, not at all. What I'm saying is right now, if you want to close escrow in 30 days, in a short period of time, you put that extra $10,000 to make sure that the work that you're obligated to do under our resolutions is you want to close escrow before that work gets done or you want to pass it on to the new buyer. Well, there's work that's required of you to fix. And what we're saying is you put up that $10,000 in escrow, then if we have to go fix it, then we're going to pull off of that $10,000. But you can close escrow, the new seller can be there, but there may be work that is a requirement of United to fix or Third to fix, and specifically in Third in your situation. That is the obligation of the of VMS to do for you. And so it is a requirement in order to close escrow quicker, meet their obligations that they want, but ensure that the mutual is not left hanging out to dry on this cost that would be associated with that. But it doesn't slow down.
In
fact, what I want to make the point is the $10,000 deposit sped up closures of escrows.
Okay. This is a longer conversation. We'll have it at a later time, but I don't want to waste people's time right now. Go ahead.
Any other comments?
President Parsons,
let's go ahead to...
before
yes.
we move on, I just want to bring attention to Karen Shore is requesting to speak once more.
We've already taken member comments, now we're answering them.
Understood.
Okay. On to Barry Fredericks on his barbecue policy, in particular grandfathering for the use of charcoal grills and where they can be used. Lynn, would you like to address this, please?
We've gone back and forth with this policy for like about 8 months, and we studied it. All of us have studied it. The Resident Policy Committee has studied it, and we feel that we've put a good policy together. So this is the first person that's mentioned in all these times that we put this policy out, and then we brought it out once, we brought it onto the table once, and then we brought it again. This is the first person that's mentioned that. That's Mr. Frederick. And if he's in a single-story unit, I don't see a problem with that. But what we're trying to do is to get away from charcoals, period. And if you look at the different laws in the state of California and most of the cities, and especially, and we have a lot of multi-story units here, and that's what we're really concerned about. What we told people last month when we brought this policy, when we did not want to take away your current barbecues. What we do is we want to make sure that anybody that replaces their barbecue now will replace it according to the rules that we've laid out, the guidelines. And anybody that moves in, there's a box they have to check that they have looked at the guidelines for the barbecue rules here in the village. So I'm not going to say we're going to take away your barbecue, Mr. Frederick, but I would advise you, if this policy passes, to please, and maybe you already do this, there's a special charcoal lighter fluid on the market. It's a lot safer than what they used to have on the market. So, and I'm hoping that you're using that now. So we really like to pass this policy. We've had 2 fires in the past 18 months here in the village. And one of them was on a single story unit, and it went through the roof of the structure. And the other one was in a 3-story building, started down the 1st floor. So we really want to protect the people. So that's why we're bringing this policy forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Yes, we need to take precautions all that we can to protect everyone involved. Okay,
Right.
Any other
It's all
comments
about
on this? Go ahead, Lynn.
It's all about safety.
Okay.
Safety is number one.
Okay, anyone else want to make any comments on this? Okay, on to Pat Dennekamp, termites and conducting complete inspections. Jeff or Siobhan, would you like to take that, please?
President Parsons, we will schedule an inspection as soon as we follow up with the Maintenance and Construction Department.
Then if you let us know the results, that would be great. Okay, on to Karen Shore. She mentioned about social media. We'll be taking up a little bit. So I think that we will move forward and then get into those. So let's move forward to the COO report. Item 9.
Thank you, President Parsons. To the board and residents, a couple things I have for you today. Update on COVID, as we usually do. The good news is that numbers are stabilizing and actually in some cases going down. The stabilization has been in the positive cases have fluctuated around 150. One day we may have a little bit of a spike, but they're really stabilizing in that number. What's positive, really positive, is we've seen a continuing decline in hospitalization rates, down from over 300 just a couple weeks ago down to 233 as of yesterday with regards to cases currently hospitalized. The ICU numbers, again, go up and down a little bit, but they have stabilized around the 75 to 70 number, so that's good news. And because of that stabilization, if you didn't know, the County of Orange fell into the next category down, out of the purple into the red zone as of this weekend. We had sent out information in the blast on Friday indicating that we were anticipating that, and we were looking at areas in which we could make some small modifications here at the village, and we are implementing those small modifications as of tomorrow on St. Patrick's Day, and that is with both resident services and manor alterations. We're making accessible to coming into the community center by appointment only. It is still a situation where we're trying to maintain health and safety requirements for our employees, as well as trying to meet the needs of our residents to have the ability to come in if they need to talk to an individual besides going on the phone or online, to look at, in the case of resident services. Those appointments are going to be between 1 and 4:30 on a daily basis. You can call 949-597-4600 to make your appointment with resident services. And they'll be addressing the following issues, things like appliance contracts, form submittals that you would have, key file program that we have, passes that you need, maintenance requests that you might have. We've also been doing outside of our office in the back, the RFID that will continue, so you can make an appointment to get your RFID sticker. In the mornings from 8 to noon, we will have manor alterations taking appointments, and they are going to cover general permit procedures, review expectations with individuals and what's going to need review for the very classifications with regards to applications that have been submitted, website information guidance, permitless alteration process for United, also access of website questions that are coming up from both United and Third, and then any information that we can provide you with regards to making it easier and quicker for your contractor or you to process an application. It's not going to be sitting there and going through an application or one that's already been submitted and having a plan check process. This is really for the person that is just starting out, gets information about what they need to do to process through manor alterations so that we can help facilitate the process going forward. So this is kicking off tomorrow, as I indicated. This is by appointment only, no walk-ins. Those that have appointments will have to wear a mask when they're in the facility. They will get their temperature checked when they come in the door. They'll be asked to wait outside until their appointment is nearly ready, and then they'll come into the beginning of the community center there, and we'll have our security taking their temperature. So we think that will, again, help process for our residents, but at the same time keeping our employees safe. The last thing I wanted to mention, last Friday we finished up our second dose vaccination program, and again I wanted to just thank the Memorial Care and their team, Eileen Paulin and Carlos and all of the players on our team for their efforts out there. The volunteers that we had from the village, they were just so awesome in coming down and volunteering with us. We were able to vaccinate over 9,000 residents with this program that we instituted. We also were able to do over 70 in-home bound individuals who couldn't come down to the clinic. And so it's been a really, really great success. We are looking at the potential of a makeup clinic for those that weren't able to get vaccinated for one reason or another. We know that a number of people have gotten vaccinations outside of the village, so that's really good with regards to building up, quote unquote, the herd immunity concept. And we are looking forward to, obviously with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and others making available at some point in time, the 65 and under, which is starting to come out with their regulations with regards to that. So we'll be looking at that as a additional possibility of when we could potentially have a makeup clinic to address some of those issues. But just a phenomenal job by all of our workers here and volunteers here in the village, and I'm so proud of everybody accomplishing that, and such great feedback from all the residents that came through and got their vaccine. So with that, I'll turn it over to Siobhan, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I'm going to lead off this morning with a requested information about fire extinguishers. Third Mutual inspects its 1,300 fire extinguishers annually in accordance with the Cal OSHA regulation, which governs portable fire extinguishers. Inspections are conducted by a trained and licensed contractor authorized for these inspections in the state of California. Extinguishers are certified once per year, and staff replaces extinguishers when they are out of date and can no longer be certified. The contractor is starting this work this month, and staff estimates the contractor will take most of the year to work through the community, and then that process begins again in the subsequent year. New resident orientation for new third residents is Friday, March 19th at 9 a.m. Residents new to the village are encouraged to attend a virtual new resident orientation session. These informational sessions are an opportunity for new residents to become familiar with the operating rules of the mutual and to talk to a board member who represents the mutual. Residents who want to attend should RSVP by emailing Executive Assistant Becky Jackson. Becky can be reached at the email address becky.jackson@vmsinc.org. And again, the next orientation session for new residents is this Friday at 9 a.m., March 19th. The Recreation and Special Events Department is pleased to announce that 4UP, the online tea time system, is ready to go live starting on March 25th for April 1st tea times. Golfers will receive a series of emails that provide login and temporary password information for 4UP, as well as information about how to use the system. For more information, please call Golf Course Operations at 949-597-4336. The Pool 1 boiler is in the process of being replaced. This will take approximately 4 weeks to receive, install, and configure the new boiler. Since this development affects pool water temperature, swimming is being transitioned temporarily to Pool 6, beginning Wednesday, March 17th, which is tomorrow. The Recreation and Special Events Department will keep residents apprised of the progress in replacing the boiler for Pool 1. Spring carport cleaning begins in Third Mutual today, March 16th. The schedule is available on the website and in Friday's What's Up in the Village. Cleaning will go on through the end of April. And lastly, I want to mention that the next free bulky item pickup is this Saturday, March 20th. Please remember to notify resident services if you will be setting out anything for pickup. That number is 949-597-4600. Bulky items should be placed near the trash enclosure or in the same location you set out your trash bins. You should set out the items the night before or no later than 7 a.m. on collection day. And I also want to turn this back over to Jeff Parker. He's going to work with Ernesto on the introduction of our new damage restoration manager.
Thank you, Siobhan. And again, to President Parsons and the board, it's a pleasure. We don't get to see Ernesto on there very often, but it's nice to have him on board. As you know, we have been diligently trying to fill a lot of positions in our organization recently, and Ernesto has been able to do that with damage restoration, and I would like to turn it over to Ernesto to introduce our new manager for damage restoration. Ernesto?
Thank you, CEO Parker, President Parsons, Honorable Board. I am pleased this morning to introduce our new Damage Restoration Division Manager, Mr. Darren Cobb. Darren comes to VMS with over 20 years of experience, successfully restructuring small businesses to achieve increased activity in various businesses. Darren has a good background and valuable experience in all aspects of the damage restoration industry. He brings skills such as right staffing, team building, motivation, leadership, strategic planning, and problem solving, which we sorely need, and we will put to good use in our department. Darren has acquired, he's done studies in psychology, business, statistics, and management, and has earned degrees at Cal State Long Beach and UCLA. He's experienced as a managing partner for an environmental firm and as an advisor and consultant, as well as guest lecturer and program advisor at Brandman University. He will be providing our department with assistance in developing a better customer service interface and streamlining the damage restoration division processes and workflow. As you know, the damage restoration division plays a significant role in the restoration of damage to our buildings resulting from moisture, plumbing leaks, rain events, fires, and vehicular damage as well. Timelines and professional keys to these functions, And in addition to managing multiple restoration and environmental hygienist contracts and overseeing a team of 9 employees. So this is one of our busiest division, and it's a tall order, and I'm really excited to have on board. So I wanted to introduce him this morning. Let's see, where is he? Is he here? There he is. So we can put a name. So with that, I'll turn it over to Darren for a couple of words.
Sure. Thank you, Ernesto. It is a pleasure to be here with everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to making a difference and an impact. I look forward to learning from each of you and growing within the organization and making damage restoration proactive. So I appreciate it. Appreciate the shot.
Thank you, Darren. We're happy to have you.
Great. Thanks, Ernesto.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Jeff, Siobhan, or Ernesto? Okay, moving forward to the consent calendar, item 10. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider that approved by consensus. And we will move on to unfinished business. First thing is item 11A, and it's about the barbecue rules and regulations. I'll turn on to Director Jarrett.
Thank you, President Parsons. This resolution is one that will put our own barbecue rules and regulations into effect here in third. The primary purpose of the resolution is to provide guidelines for safety using barbecues in all of Third Mutual, especially in multi-story buildings, both 2- and 3-story buildings. It is all about safety. The resolution has passed its 28-day review. And is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Director Jarrett, I make a motion to approve the resolution for the barbecue grill.
And Debbie seconds.
Yes, I second it.
Okay, any discussion on this? I think we've cleared up a few points before,
Right.
that if you have one, you can continue using it. And it really applies to new incoming people. So, any discussion? Okay. At this time, we need to take a vote. If there's no opposition to it, I'll ask for opposition at this time.
Do we vote at this time, President Parsons?
Yes, I'm asking for anybody that has opposition to it.
Yeah, I vote no for this barbecue thing.
Okay, you want any discussion on it to bring forward?
No, we've been discussing it all the time, but I don't think it has gone through. So my vote is no.
Okay. That being the case, we'll go ahead and poll each director. I'll poll you. Annie?
Yes, I vote yes.
Director Jarrett?
Yes.
Director Dotson?
Yes.
Director Sostek?
Yes.
Okay. Director Muchnick?
Yes.
Director Frankel?
Yes.
Director Remy? Reza, are you on?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I have a spotty internet. I'm sorry.
Okay. Director Engdahl?
Yes.
Director Wayne?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes and the regulations and rules are adopted. Okay. On to item 11B. Entertain a motion to adopt a resolution for social media use policy. We turn over to Director Jarrett.
All right. This social media use policy resolution has been brought forward primarily to provide guidelines for Third Mutual board members in the social media environment. I want to call your attention to a very important Scrivener error that is found in agenda item 11B on page 6 of 8. The error is in section 3, item B at the beginning of the paragraph. It incorrectly states that mutual members, where it should have stated mutual representatives, as was done correctly in the 3 preceding items in section 3. We're talking about guidelines for social media use by third board members. I would like to be clear, this policy was initiated by Third Mutual and Third Mutual Board alone. Neither VMS Board, United Board, or GF Board, GRF Board had any part in the creation of this policy. This resolution has passed its 28-day review. I move that we approve this resolution.
I
Is there
second.
a second?
I
Okay.
second the motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I move that we accept the resolution.
Okay, Lynn moved, and I think yours is the second,
Oh,
correct?
okay.
Okay. Okay, discussion from board members.
Steve, can I say something on that?
Sure, go ahead, Raisin.
I just want to make sure that our members are clear that when I vote yes on this, the reason is that this is in regard to the confidential information. In our meetings, we discuss a lot of issues related to the personnel, to the members, to disciplinary action, and those information are not public information. I don't think any of our members also wants us to discuss those things. Those are confidential. My understanding is this policy only emphasizes the David Sterling confidential information, and we're emphasizing that to our current and the previous member and the future member that we should keep those information confidential. And that's my understanding of this, and that's what I support.
Okay. Director McCary?
Thank you, President Parsons and Director Jarrett. I wanted to speak to the policy specifically. The purpose of instituting a social media policy is in keeping with current best business practices to ensure that members of the Third Mutual Board of Directors observe their individual fiduciary responsibility to the members of the mutual. Specifically, directors speak as a whole and as a unified body. Directors want to ensure that at no time do they engage in unvetted social media forums that are known by reputation to be controlled by misinformed individuals with personal agendas. This policy was generated by the Board of Directors in order to outline acceptable behavior of a board member on social media platforms such as, but not limited to, Facebook, Nextdoor, Twitter, and some of the other ones. It is not initiated by any member of the VMS staff, as Director Jarrett alluded to. However, as communication professionals, VMS media and communication staff understands the importance of a policy and recommends that it be in place. VMS employees adhere to a social media policy as well. This policy is applies only to elected members of Third Mutual Board of Directors. This policy does not hinder the right of free speech. It does not stifle interaction with members. What it does is direct members with concerns to a fair platform for communication. The Third Mutual Board of Directors recognize the following channels for communication. And one of them is the actual monthly third board meeting where members are invited to participate and give their comments and get information directly from the board. And another acceptable means of communication is on TV6. Every month, one of the board of directors goes on this day and recap information that goes on in the board meetings. There's a Friday e-blast that goes out every Friday via email. And any resident who has an email on file will get the information. If you do not have an email address on file, we really do encourage you to go to the VMS website and register your email address so that you can get the same information that everybody else gets from the same communication devices as everybody else. We also have the Village Breeze that comes out bi-monthly with information about what goes on in Third Mutual, and information that is that is pertaining to Third Board members. Again, social media platform is exactly what it is a platform where members get together and discuss social stuff. We do not do Third Board business on any social media platform. We really encourage residents to utilize the communication tools that I've outlined. And so these are the effective ways, the consistent ways that we communicate, and we communicate as a body of the whole. Thank you, President Parson. Those are my comments on the social media policy.
Are there other comments by board members? Director Dotson?
I just want to make a brief statement because I think Annie covered it quite well. But I would just like to add that I'm a strong believer that using social media for posting grievances is simply not the best way to solve any problem. A lack of regulation on social media can cause neighborhood tensions and harms the reputation of a community. Nothing gets resolved that way. What person would want to be slandered in public on social media? I don't think any of us do, and I don't think anybody out there would feel the same way. Board members are your neighbors who volunteer their time, and they make the best decisions they can for this community. And social media does not solve problems. We don't do business there. It's not a good place to do business. And so that is why I vehemently support the social media policy for board members. It does not, again, I want to reiterate what both Director Jarrett and Director McCary said, is this is only for third board members. So I think that a lot of what we read from comments and things, there was a lot of misinformation provided with regards to this policy in social media and via email. And I hope that residents are listening now to the real reasons why we're doing this. It's our fiduciary responsibility. It's good business practice, and we don't do business on social media. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Any other directors? I would like to mention that what we are doing is in accordance with Davis Sterling, and you may want to reread that if you if you're in opposition to what we are trying to do, and then go forward from there. But if you want to bring comments to us in the future, still continue to do that. Okay.
President Parsons,
comments?
we do have somebody requesting to speak, Ms. Karen Shore, on this topic.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. I just want to comment on a few things. Let's see. I appreciated what Lynn put in there. And as far as you, Steve Parsons, I just want to say that, sorry, my video is off, that if you think you're quoting Davis Sterling in this social media policy, please provide the place where it is, because it is not readily available. What is readily available is the confidentiality of closed session, which we all can respect. Let's see. Annie McCary, you talked about other avenues of communication, and I've heard that over and over again, as we all have, that those are one-way communications. This moment of me speaking on an issue is the very first moment there's been any two-way conversation allowed. Previous to this, it was only open forum, non-agenda items. So you're breaking ground. I appreciate that we can now maybe speak on a agenda item. But all the things you mentioned with the breeze and the what's up in the village is one-way communication filtered through VMS and whoever else reviews that. But that is not considered communication. Ms. Dodson, as you must know, there's a lot more communication that goes on in social media where people actually learn. You might not feel that it's a good communication tool, but there are many other people that do. Whether an idea is liked or agreed upon or disagreed upon, it's all a means of communication, of getting information out and possibly more clarity on any issue that comes about. So I would not discount it as being valuable. And Riza, you're a sweetheart, but I don't think you understand what this policy is saying. It is not just addressing confidential matters, which we all can respect, should not be out, as long as only confidential matters are discussed in closed session. And there's only three things you're all very aware of that need to be in closed session. The very fact that this got possibly started in closed session, I don't know that for a fact, but if it did, this is not an appropriate thing for to be in closed session. And there is true information coming across on social media. I'll just say that this is not just a third mutual issue. It is also being considered by United Mutual.
President Parsons, 3 minutes have expired.
Aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody want to respond to her comments here? Okay, Debbie?
Yes, I am very active reader of social media, but at no point or time would I feel it appropriate to respond to anything that I read there, good, bad, or otherwise. And that is my choice. And I have no problem with a social media policy that reinforces that, but I do that prior to me even agreeing to the social media policy. So to Ms. Shore's point, there is a small number of people that are using social media to have discussions, and that's fine, no problem. I don't have a problem with any of the things that I read there, except for I read a lot of things that are just simply not true. And so with that in mind, I feel that it would be not prudent. It would be a violation of law, whether it's Davis-Sterling laws or there are other laws. I've been spending a great deal of time reading about the use of social media by HOAs over the last month. And I would like to clarify one thing about the comment about closed session. None of this came about in closed session. We have a media and communications committee within Third Mutual. We have board meetings, we have committee meetings. When we do have a meeting, it's posted. So other residents can do this, but the social media policy came up long before the last few things that were discussed in some of the emails, and also in something that Ms. Shore said was that talking about us, that this all came up because of that closed session. No, this was in the works for months. So this didn't just come up overnight. That's basically, I just want to clarify that. And another thing about the two-way communication, when I had my time on TV6 last month, I specifically stated that any of the board members are more than willing and happy to meet with any resident at any time. I even told them how to do that by contacting Becky Jackson, and she will get a hold of us. And depending on which board member or whether it's more than one board member, none of us hide in a cave. But you have to ask for help. we're not going around right now due to COVID or whatever. We're not having open board meetings because we can't. We're not going to go knock on your door. If you want to talk to us, you're more than welcome to knock on my door anytime. But you know what? I've been a board member since November, and with the exception of 2 voicemails that I've been left, I have not heard from one resident. So I'm imploring residents that if you want solutions to your problems, if you want help with things that you feel there's an injustice, our doors are wide open, but you've got to let us know. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't just figure it out. And yes, I am very passionate about this topic because I have seen some of the damage that has been done to some of our residents by what they've read on social media that just simply was not true. So yeah, I am passionate. If you think I'm on my soapbox, I totally am. But I'm telling you, residents, anybody listening to this right now, we're here for you. We're residents just like you. We care about our community. We're doing the best job we can as volunteers with countless hours spent on these things. So when people come on and malign our character or say that, or go on social media and malign us, you don't know us personally. In some cases you might, but in most cases you don't. So I'm offended by that. Someone made a comment earlier that was very offensive to me in a member comment because you don't know me. You don't know my character. I want what's best for our community and our residents. So I don't feel social media is the way to resolve any of your problems. It does not provide a solution. It simply provides a place for venting. And if you feel better going on there to vent, have at it. But the third board has decided when they vote on this today, whether or not we want to adhere to a social media policy, one that was created over several months. And again, if you want something, we have plenty of committee meetings that are open for anybody to join us. Just call us. Thank you.
Can I please make a comment?
Go ahead.
I apologize. 1 second. Let me make sure she is back into the panel.
Okay, thank you so much, Deborah, for bringing that up. I didn't know you were on Channel 6 and invited people to speak to board members. That has never come across to me, and I've been watching these meetings. That concept has never come across. That needs to be made available. It appears that the board members are avoiding contact with residents. And I'm just telling you, I mean, Lynn's shaking her head, but it's the appearance. And that would be wonderful to have our board members more accessible. Yeah, but I have to contradict what you said, that it causes just damage. If you board members would come onto social media, as you know they have in other boards, they can help clarify and build unity in the community. What I see here is when people don't talk, it builds a wall. When residents try to talk and don't get accurate interpretation by the board, there's no recourse we have other than for me to write all of you emails after the meeting because there's something lacking. And this is not the way these meetings are supposed to be held. It's supposed to be communication between the boards and the residents. And if you would work towards that, and what we're doing right this moment is the first I've seen of it, I think it would go a long way for building this reputation of Third Mutual. People who go on social media put themselves out there, Deborah. If you felt offended, you put yourself out there. I've done the same, but you have to have thick skin or stay the heck off of it. And no one's asking you to comment. You say you wouldn't want to comment. No one's asking you to comment. But this social media policy prevents people from commenting. And Riza, you better understand what you're reading, as all of you. This is not just confidential matters. This is all matters that have to do with the board that you're voting against. So please reread this. If that policy needs to be redrafted, consider that. I would rather see it completely gone because you're already covered under Davis Sterling for anything that's confidential. Thank you for listening to me.
Karen, I would remind you that not only this forum is a place for you to speak. Committee meetings is where things are supposed to be hammered out. And you do have a way of getting in there. So one of the things we want to emphasize is residents have a responsibility to stay current. If you want to bring something forward at a committee, you can do that. You don't have to wait for a board meeting to bring something up. You can also contact staff. They will pass information to us, and we can get back to you. We have spent an inordinate amount of money on communications. And so far, what we found is very few people take into consideration and actually do their responsibility as a resident, a voting resident. You have to do that. And as far as being on social media, this has been tried several times by our board, other boards, different people on the boards at the time, and it ended up being a shouting match to the point where it almost went to legal. That is one reason why I am in favor of this, and it needs to be done. Residents need to understand their responsibility as well. There's many avenues for you to get a hold of us. We cannot come and knock on your door. I don't mean this to be bad or to berate anybody, but it's simply the thing that you're given the responsibility to vote and to communicate also. So any other comments need to be made?
This is me. I raised my hand before. Can I speak?
Oh, I can't see you because you're not on media here.
Oh, I see myself. But
okay, go ahead.
Okay, dear Karen, let me tell you, I only read this the way that I said it. As long as not trampling on confidential information in social media and with other members of this community, I feel no restraint to speak my mind. And I will do that as I assume. Because nothing will trample on my freedom of speech. So speaking, that I will speak my mind regardless, doesn't matter what, resolution, as long as I'm on confidential information, I will speak my mind. And I don't think there's a resolution gonna stop me from speaking my mind or any other member to speak their mind. When I become the member of this board, I understand from my past experience that I open myself to criticism or, rewards in the sense that I did a good job. So I'm not afraid of somebody criticize me in the social media. I think I have a broad shoulder and I'm big enough to defend myself if I want to get on social media. I don't like social media myself because I think is, for my personal reason. But that's beside the point. None of us on the board, at least speaking from my point of view, feel restrained to speak our mind unless information. I promise our members that all of the board members feel the same way, that we will tell you the truth. Everything that we can tell you, we will tell you, and we will listen to what you have to tell us also. And we act on it. But this is a two-way communications. One-way communication always fails. And, it is, we have to be honest and we have to be fair. We have to use proper way to communicate. And with that, I think we can resolve the issues. Other than that, as I said, personally, I don't feel restrained of speaking my mind regardless of what you believe that this resolution does to me or to the members. And it doesn't. That's my point of view on that. Thank you.
Steve?
Just a minute, Kush, Director Jarrett.
I just have one other comment to make. I don't understand why people on Nextdoor, for example, complain a lot about landscaping, because, you know, I pay a lot of attention to landscaping, but they complain about landscaping, but they can sit down and write a message and complain, but they don't send a message to resident services for help. Or, you know, they just complain. And Nextdoor, that doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do people, those complainers, any good, is what I'm saying. So that's all I'm saying. You know, there's ways to get hold of resident services, either by phone or email, because now they're working pretty smoothly since the malware attack. Thank you.
Okay, Director Botta. Trish, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I was muted. I was muted, I think.
Yeah.
I have a mixed feeling about this whole social media policy. I personally feel that this is like, I understand it is only for our board members, but when we all became board members, we signed a document along with when we got elected, about confidentiality, and that we would keep everything confidential. I would think that we all have the common sense not to get into any social media and create a kind of a disparaging conversation and hurting ourselves as well as the rest of the board. So we are all adults, and I totally don't feel that this kind of social media policy is not necessary that we should go ahead with, because we've already signed a document saying something that we will not do. Why do we need a policy? This is like muzzling your mouth that you cannot even open.
Let me ask you a question, though, Kush.
Yes.
Do you believe that everything in this proposed policy is already covered by Davis-Sterling in the Corporations Act? Corporation Code?
Maybe, maybe not, but that's not the important part.
Well, I think that's at the heart of it.
We are all adults, and we shouldn't be doing certain things. Do you think? So, do we still need to be controlled by a leash to say you can't do this or you can't do that?
Well, according to your analogy here, it's already covered in Davis-Sterling that you're on a leash. So what difference does it make if it's restated?
Do we need to do it again? We're wasting time and money and resources to get this done.
Okay, if you're in opposition to this, are you in opposition to something in Davis-Sterling?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying we are wasting time on all this that we shouldn't be doing, because this is already done and said. That's what I'm saying. That's all.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments by board members? Okay.
President Parsons, we do have a request to speak from Karen Shore once more.
Okay, but we got to make it quick here. We got to move on.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Real quick, Lynn, there is question about this policy, obviously, from Riza still, who still thinks he can, after he signs this, he can go on social media. And it sounds like Director Botta may have some questions as well. And Steve, if he's not sure of what's in Davis-Sterling, I think you all need to get all these things clarified before you even consider taking a vote on it. Again, I think you're all in the best position, if you choose and want to go on social media, to clarify information. And even if that information is just to say, this needs to be reported to resident services. Nobody else is looking at social media to try and clarify those things. I hate Nextdoor. I think it's a very bad medium. There's very little control in there, and it just doesn't serve my purposes. I might go on once in a while because I belong to a group of people that do want us to use that medium. But that's all I'm going to say. Please don't vote on this today. This is not ready for prime time. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any final comments from board members? We have a motion on the floor and seconded about this. Okay, hearing no other comments, I'll poll for a vote. Director Jarrett?
Yes.
Director Shostak?
Yes.
Director McCary?
Yes.
Director Dodson?
Yes.
Director Muchnick?
Well, I agree, and I don't agree, but I understand Karen Shore's comments. I do think it's ready for prime time, and I vote yes.
Director Frankel?
Yes.
Director Bada?
No.
Okay, Director Karimi?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll vote yes. I understand what Karen's saying. Karen, believe me, I can speak my mind, and I think we all will speak our mind,
Right.
and you can too. So I vote yes.
Director Engdahl?
Yes.
Director Wayne?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
President
let's
Parsons,
move
I
forward
wanted
to
to
item-
bring one question that says, why are board emails not published so residents can communicate as suggested by Kush and Debbie?
What was that?
Yeah, can you say that again?
Yes. This is from Gail Shapiro. The question is, why are board emails not published so residents can communicate as suggested by Kush and Debbie?
Okay.
What
Director Dodson,
email?
go ahead.
I believed my understanding was there was a way on LagunaWoodsVillage.com that people had our information. Is that not the case, Jeff or Siobhan? Because I was asked to give my information for public.
There is a list that is maintained. It's up to the individual board member whether to provide their information or not, is my understanding.
Okay, so it sounds like that avenue is available already.
Yeah.
But Steve,
Yes, go ahead.
mine is the only person I know whose email and phone number is published. Everybody else is not. So I do get a lot of email and phone calls.
Well, you aren't the only one. I get tons of them, so mine's out there as well.
I don't know if yours is published or not, but but
It's
somehow
out there.
Okay.
I know Director Muchnick is out there. I know Director McCary is out there. It's out there, folks, if you want.
Awesome. Great. Then go ahead. Keep shooting emails to us.
Yes. And please don't wait till the board meeting to bring up something.
Steve,
Yes, go ahead.
in terms of my email, it's very simple. It's my last name, muchnick@gmail.com. And if people want to email me, they can email me.
Okay. I think the thing that's really frustrating the board members more than anything is instead of people coming forward to us to get an authoritative or official answer on something, they generate something and go on social media, and then things are generated that aren't true. And also, people, like we found during our initiative, will not read questions and answers. Folks, they're still out there. So please do your own due diligence and read things and ask questions ahead of time. Okay, I don't want to belabor the point here. Okay, we're going to move forward here to item 11C.
Wait, Steve, did you finish getting all the votes?
Yes, it passed. One opposed. Okay, insurance broker services update. Director Mooch may have already answered a lot of this. Is there anything else you want to add to this?
No, I gave everybody the updated information. Just know that we're working diligently on it. We are certainly very cognizant of the cost of insurance, and we're doing everything we can to control that. But there's only so much we can do, and as we indicated last year, we took money from the disaster fund to help underwrite insurance for this coming year. We're not going to be able to do that on a continuing basis. So the best thing we can do is try to control the rates as much as possible. But if not, we're going to have to pass on an increase in the HOA fee this coming year. I'm sorry to say that. It's not something I like saying, but I'm just trying to be open with people about where we are in the process.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else anybody wants to add in here, or questions for Director Muchnick? Okay, onward to item 12, new business. Discuss and consider replacement of 2 intake trash chute doors at building 3486. Director Muchnick, do you want to address this?
Yes, President Parsons. This is an issue that has come before the M&C Committee, and the M&C Committee recommends to the full board that the trash chutes on the 3rd and 2nd floor of building 3486 be replaced. Apparently, it appears that there was a fire about 10, 11 years ago in that building, and when the trash chutes on those 2 floors were replaced, they were replaced at a level that is not reachable in terms of opening the door of the trash chute and an average sized person being able to easily put their trash down into the trash chute. People on the 3rd and 2nd floor have been for quite a long period of time going down to the 1st floor or down to the garage to get rid of their trash. So we've had a number of requests. We've looked into it. The trash doors that are on the 3rd and 2nd floor were placed at a level that is much too high. It doesn't meet ADA requirements in terms of where they are. And we've gone out and solicited bids to replace those 2 trash doors. And I'm sorry to say, but it's necessary. The cost is about approximately $19,000 to do the 2 trash doors, because it's not just the doors. They have to redo the chutes. They have to redo the sprinkler system that's in the chutes. It's quite an extensive undertaking. And but even so, it seems appropriate that the M&C Committee recommends to the board approval of this project for $19,000.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I'll therefore formally make a motion on that behalf.
Okay, Debbie seconds it. Any discussion? Okay, any opposition to the motion?
Steve, I'd just like to share one more thing. When the contractor who did this work did it, obviously it was done incorrectly, but it's now been almost 11 years, so we can't go back to the contractor at this point in time. So that was explored, and that's the reason we're going forward with the proposal.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to add that in that committee meeting, we did go over those numbers very carefully and judiciously, and questioned them, because yes, it is a significant amount of money, but it has to be done. We have to be compliant.
Okay. Any other comments? Any objection to the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider it approved by consensus. We'll move on now to committee reports. We'll have the financial report from Director Muchnick.
Okay, thank you, President Parsons. As your treasurer, I'm pleased to share with you the figures we have for the month of January 2021. Grant, if you could put the slides up on the screen, slide 1. Now that we're starting to share the figures for 2021, you'll note that to provide you the standard 3-month comparison that we've been doing for the last 6 months or so, we are comparing 1 month in January to the previous 2 months of 2020. As I shared with you with last month, we are working on the closing figures for the year 2020, and most likely will not have final figures for 2020 until April next month. Next slide, please. This slide depicts income for Third Mutual for the last 3 months, November, December, and January. A Assessment revenue year-to-date at the end of January is $2,833,000. If one was to multiply this by 12, the expected assessment revenue for 2021 would be $34,596,000, which is right on track for the total assessment revenue for 2020 with the $20 per manor per month increase instituted in 2021. Non-assessment revenue is $32,000 for the same period, which is considerably lower than the average month for 2020. Adding together the assessment revenue and the non-assessment revenue for January, our total revenue for January is $2,915,000, which you can see in the center part of the chart. Now, looking at the set of bars second from the right of the slide for the month of January, third had expenses of $2,269,000. And the bars on the far right of the chart, Third Mutual had a net revenue of $646,000 for the month of January. Next slide, please. This slide presents data for income for the operating fund only for the 3 months ending January. Looking at the bar graphs at the far left of the chart, assessment revenue for over the most recent 31-day period, January, was $1,747,000. Now, shifting your gaze to the set of bars second from the left, non-assessment revenue increased by $105,000. The bar graphs third from the right, Third Mutual had a total revenue in the operating fund of $1,852,000 for the month of January. And now the bar graph second from the right side of the chart, total expenses during the same period for the operating fund of $1,943,000 for a negative variance of $91,000, as you can see on the far right side of the chart. Slide 4, please. This slide compares our actual revenues and expenses to what was originally budgeted. As can be seen from the far left side, actual and budgeted assessment revenue was, as one would expect, the same. Looking at non-assessment revenue, the second set of bar graphs from the left, the actual is in red, the budget is in green, while the variance is in yellow. The non-assessment revenue had a negative variance of $131,000 of actual over budgeted for year-to-date ending January. Now, looking at the bar graphs in the section second from the right, total expense, one can see that our actual expenses year-to-date were $478,000 less than budgeted. Shifting your gaze to the bar graphs on the far right, Third Mutual is left with $347,000 revenue over expenses for the month of January, a positive variance at the moment. Slide 5, please. This slide provides you with a picture of select budget items and the current variance associated with each for the month of January. You also have the opportunity to see how each of these variances compares to the variance for each category at the end of both November and December. The top bar in the category, which is green, represents the variances at the end of November, while the middle bars, which are gold, represent the dollar amount of variance for each category at the end of December. And finally, the bottom bar in each category, the brown bar, represents the reporting for this particular period, January. As you can see, looking only at the brown bars, Third continues to have favorable variances for each of the categories for outside service, employee compensation, materials and supplies, and net allocation to mutuals for the period ending January 31st. There's been a positive variance in each of these categories for the past 3 months. As was reported last month, we expected the variance for outside services to decrease considerably. That's the one at the very top. If you notice, the green was $3,700,000 for November, $2,037,000 for December, and only $439,000 for the month of January. This is because we continue to receive incoming invoices for the outside services that we're paying off. The last 3 categories have an unfavorable variance. There's been an increase in the usage of water and electricity that has caused the current negative variance. Also, with the very low, almost non-existent interest rate on our bond investments, there's been a loss of $86,000 for the month of January. The Finance Committee is meeting with Third Financial Advisor at its next monthly meeting to assess our portfolio and any changes that may be needed that we would need to make. So we're going to address the issue of the unrealized gain loss on our investments. Okay, slide 6, please. This slide depicts two pie charts, the one on the left for December, while the one on the right is for total non-assessment revenue for the period ending January 31st. This comparison is somewhat misleading since the pie chart on the left is for the total for 12 months, while the pie chart on the right is only for 1 month. As noted earlier, for the month of January, non-assessment revenue was down considerably from the previous month. We are looking into why this is the situation, and we'll have information for you on this next month. However, on the good news side, lease processing fees have increased, as have resale processing fees. We're seeing a substantial uptick in the number of third resales. Hopefully, this will continue. Laundry collection, which is not on the pie chart for the month of January, but you'll notice is on the pie chart for the previous 12 months. It's not on the pie chart for January because there was no collection of the coins during the month of January. So we're expecting next month a report on the laundry collection, and it'll actually represent 2 months' worth of collection in a single month. So anticipate a sizable increase in the percent of laundry monies in the upcoming report for the next month. Next slide, please. Again, this slide depicts two pie charts for comparison purposes. Month over month, Third had additional expenses of $2,268,644, which is actually about half of the expenses reported for the month of December. Again, comparing these two pie charts can be somewhat misleading since the pie chart on the left, I once again point out, is for the full 12 months. Comparing the percent for some categories, for example, there's been a sizable decrease in the percent of outside services from 28 to 3%. Expect this to change over the next number of months as more outside services are performed, as the weather gets better and invoices are received. The insurance will continue to be a large expense each month. As you recollect from last year, our premiums went up dramatically, and where we previously shared the total cost of insurance with United and GRF, we are now only sharing the first $425 million, and Third is paying the premium for the next $275 million by itself. As stated elsewhere in this meeting, Third has engaged the services of a new insurance broker, A.J. Gallagher, and is working to manage our cost of insurance while still trying to provide full coverage so members can sleep peacefully, knowing they are fully insured as possible. We'll keep you updated on insurance as we proceed. Next slide, please. For this slide, I always like to direct you to first look at the lower right-hand corner. As of December 31st, Third Mutual had as of December 31st, right? The right-hand corner is as of January 31st. So as of December 31st, Third Mutual had $29,787,000 in reserves and contingencies. Now we have, as you can see, $30,418,000. This represents a slight increase of approximately $600,000 for the past month. Last month, the Gardenville was reported to have $68,000 in its fund. Lynn Jarrett astutely caught that there was a sudden unexpected decrease of approximately $21,000 in the Gardenville for 1 month. After an investigation, it was found that the $21,000 was coded incorrectly and should not have been deducted from the Gardenville fund. It has since been restored, and the Gardenville fund now stands correctly at $95,000. Thank you, Director Jarrett, for your eagle-eye attention. There is just over $4,326,000 in the unappropriated expenditures, an increase of $38,000 from the previous month. In the disaster fund, $7,639,000, a decrease of $1.2 million month over month, most of which, as intended, was used to cover the cost of insurance. Finally, $18,320,000 in the replacement fund is an increase of approximately $500,000 over the previous month total in this category. Year to date, Third had $1,062,000 in contributions and interest added to these funds, while we had $315,000 in expenditures. Next slide. This slide is just another way of presenting some of the previous slides. This slide compares the different fund balances for the past 5 years, which have averaged approximately just over $29 million. As you can see from the slide, there's been a slight increase year over year for the past 5 years. Please note that Third has been committed to supporting the goals of the reserve requirements, while at the same time trying to balance the need for unexpected events. As evidenced by this slide, we are making progress, albeit small, but still progress to increasing our fund balances. And our last slide, please. This slide provides you with a picture of the resale situation for Third for the past 3 years. December, if you'll notice, in 2020, had 45 resales and represents the best December we've had in the last 3 years, an increase of 17 resales over the previous month of November, 28 to the 45. Resales continue to be strong in January as well, with 41 completed. This January also, if you look at the past 3 years, represents the best January Third has had in those 3 years. That concludes the report for this month. Our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 6th at 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Muchnik? Okay, on to the Architecture Control and Standards Committee. I want to talk about 2 things that are significant that we really went over. First thing is the United Board had come forward with the permitless alterations policy and variance moratorium policy. In looking at it, we decided to have 2 different committees take a look at this. One was M&C for Third. The other is the Architecture Control and Standards Committee. M&C has looked at it and making recommendations to the Architecture Control and Standards Committee. And I'll let Director Muchnik talk more about that with the M&C Committee report. The other thing is asbestos rules and regulations. We're trying to put together a meeting of different governmental agencies that are controlling this. We want to get to the heart of what is required for asbestos abatement when somebody does a alteration, and why is the cost so high? So more to follow on that is we have a meeting that's set up with the AQMD and another department as well. So I should have something to report to you next month on that. So that concludes my talk on that. The next meeting is going to be March 22nd at 9:30 a.m., a virtual meeting. So on to Report Communications Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Third Communications Committee met back in January. This is a quarterly meeting. The next scheduled meeting will be a virtual meeting and is scheduled for April 14th. Thank you.
Okay, that's April 14th?
Yes, April 14th.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, report of maintenance construction, Director Muchnik.
Thank you, President Parsons. We've talked already earlier. We passed a motion related to the garbage chutes. We also, M&C also met and discussed with Darren Tapp some of the things he's going to be doing, the new restoration manager. Another big item for the committee was the consideration of the request for additional staffing for manor alterations. This request, as Steve has indicated, is also being considered by the Architectural Committee, and both will send recommendations to the full board. The request from manor alterations is that we add 2 operations specialists to support intake, in other words, front counter staff, 2 operations specialists to support telephone and email response staff, and in the resale area, 1 resale inspector, 1 operations specialist, 1 float inspector, in other words, 7 total employees. This committee reviewed the proposal as well as how the cost of the positions would be provided. Some fees are going to be raised, but what is not covered by increased fees would be shared. The shared cost would be with United. for the additional positions. The committee, the M&C committee recommends the proposal to the Architectural Committee and the third board with 3 changes to the proposal. Number 1, shifting the partition wall modification from classification 2 to classification 3. 2, removal of from the proposal the intent to suspend for 6 months variance requests of any kind. The alterations department would like to suspend that for 6 months so that they can catch up, but we just didn't feel that that was appropriate to have all our members have to wait an additional 6 months before they can put a request in, because then the requests would just continue to pile up and all of a sudden there'd be a massive number in 6 months. So we rejected that component. And we also asked them to recalculate with realistic figures the expected income that would help to underwrite these positions, because, for example, they indicated that they expected to have 900 resales, 450 from Third and 450 from United during the course of 2021. And we just don't think that's realistic because even the Green Book suggests that there'll only be a total of 771 resales in all of the village for this coming year. So since the support for these staff in part is predicated on the income that would be generated from resales, we want a more realistic understanding of what that's actually going to be. So with those 3 caveats, we recommend the proposal as submitted by Manor Alterations, and we recommend that to the Architectural Committee, and then hopefully on to the full board. Next meeting of Maintenance Construction is May 3rd at 1:30.
Thank you very much. On to the Parking and Golf Cart Subcommittee. Director Dotson.
Yes, thank you. We just met on March 12th, and we had a really good meeting. Ernesto and his team presented to us some interesting information regarding the potential for EV chargers. There is a program coming out from SCE that would virtually pay for the vast majority of them, and along with ChargePoint. So that was very interesting. They've identified some potential areas within Third Mutual that could be potential charging stations. We just got that map. Members of the committee will be reviewing those over the next few months. They anticipate that we will apply for the grants probably around June when the grants open up. They're going to be doing grants for the entire community, not just for Third. So that was a very, very interesting presentation. I also had a student team extrapolate what they thought the number of EV vehicles would be over the next 7 years in the village. So that was interesting information. It's a few hundred. Now that could change. The other thing we talked about were some parking issues, and our next, one thing I had asked, and I would like to say this out in the meeting, if there's people who have any parking issues, we're not aware of any, so they should go to resident services so we could address them. But there was one that we resolved, and that was it. Our next meeting is going to be in May, probably the second week of May. We'd like to meet closer to when they might be doing the applications to SE for the rebate program for the EV chargers. The last thing I want to mention is there was $50,000 budgeted for some additional parking spaces. The areas that were identified for new parking were cul-de-sac 212 and cul-de-sac 216. After a careful review of the locations and the needs of that area, it was determined that only 4 golf cart parking spaces were needed in cul-de-sac 212. So we are going to be reallocating that budget money to potentially to the EV, any expenses are associated to EV, but that's not been decided yet. But I did want to say that we are putting that money back aside, and it will be reallocated. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Director Dotson? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the Gardenville Rec Room Subcommittee. Director Jarrett.
We had our quarterly meeting recently, and all the inspections have been done for all 53 rec rooms. And because the rec rooms haven't been used for nearly a year, there was a whole lot of maintenance that needed to be done this year. So what we did with the money for this year, we decided to go with replacing all the wooden chairs in the rec rooms. And it's a considerable amount of money when you consider there's going to be 45 rec rooms that have to have new chairs. What they're doing is maintenance is going in and repairing these chairs, but what we're afraid of, somebody's going to fall down and have an accident. And then we're really going to, it's not good. Somebody's going to be hurting. So we don't want to hurt anybody. We decided to use the money to get new chairs and replace 4 small servitors. They're kind of like little kitchenettes that'll be replaced down in Gate 5 in 4 different kitchens. And I think the people are really going to be happy when they come back into the rec rooms and after being gone for a long time and seeing those new chairs, because boy, those old chairs we have are really terrible. So that was really good. The next meeting will be June the 30th at 1:30 p.m.
Very much. Any questions for Director Jarrett? Okay, on to report of Landscape Committee. Back to Director Jarrett.
Okay, I wrote a nice report and I have slides to show, but I decided today to hold off the slides till next month in the interest of time. So with my report, in the interest of time, I'm going to narrow it down to the most important things. Mr. Weedman, the landscape director, has reported that he's excited about a pilot injection program for trees that have seeds and cause all those berries that fall on the sidewalks and pavements. There's about 1,450 trees in Third that are those type of trees. And so they're doing an analysis now of where those berry trees are, the big seeds and so forth. And they're going to use this plant regulator, which prevents the trees from dropping those berries. And people are going to love it. All of Disneyland uses it. And we found out also that over in Forest Avenue in Laguna Beach, they use it. This program will mean that we're not sure whether it's going to be too effective this year because maybe they've already started. The seeds have already started to growing in some of the trees, but it'll be an annual program. Should be, this time early in the year, really early in the year, where they'll be injecting the trees. I think people are really going to be happy to hear about this program. And the other thing I wanted to mention is about the irrigation. We have a very old computer system that sits in a real small room that controls how those, that keeps our irrigation controls working. It needs to be updated. The cost is around $1 million. So Mr. Weedman started last year of reserving $200,000 a year, and he's going to do that for 5 years so that we can upgrade that system, because $1 million would be really terrible to take that out of our landscape budget. So that's the way he's going to work on that. We have 50 plus miles of irrigation piping itself. It's aging, but by no means do all those, but the irrigation pipes need to be replaced. They're repaired when repairs are needed, but they'll never figure in our lifetime be needing to replace the irrigation piping. So it's that big computer system that's going to cost the money. I just want to tell you that the number of tickets has increased and so forth. The satisfaction of the landscape, has really increased. And like I say, in the interest of time, I'll wait and show you those slides next month. So the next meeting we will have will be held on April 1 at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
Okay. Any direction or any questions for Director Jarrett? Okay. On to the Report of Water Conservation Committee. Director Rain Solstak.
Yes, we held our quarterly meeting on January the 20th. The main concern, of course, is not only the cost of water to Third Mutual, which is annually approaching $3 million, but taking a look at how we can conserve, because it is apparent that South Orange County has to get most of its water from somewhere else. We did have some slides to look at that. Landscaping has been doing a wonderful job in converting some of the plantings to drought-resistant plantings and decreasing the water usage. We're going to also be focusing on residents and residential water, which has really been increasing in cost on a regular basis. We know we've all been home, so we're probably using more water, but there are ways to conserve. And in the interest of time for this meeting, I'm not sharing the slides. However, those of you who are interested may want to listen to this Thursday morning, and I'll be talking about it and sharing some of the tips on how we can help our water conservation here in the woods on a residential basis. And our next meeting will be April 21st at 10 o'clock.
A question for staff and Director Jarrett. I understand that our own nursery for VMS, they've gone through it, called out plants needing a lot of water and they're moving to drought-tolerant plants. I believe that's been accomplished. Is that correct?
I think so. I think it has been finished.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. And so our people need to know that, so that if VMS comes out to replace a plant, put in new plants, chances are it's going to be drought tolerant. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay, I see your head's nodding. Okay, Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that landscape, we have two areas of water usage here and water bills in Laguna Woods. We have landscaping and we have residential water. And because the two are so closely tied and we have to work together, the chair of the landscaping committee, Director Jarrett, sits on the water committee, and I sit on the landscaping committee. And of course, Kurt Wyman, the director of landscaping services, attends both. So there's really been a lot of coordination, and we're looking forward to not only working together, but bringing some educational programs to the residents, working with El Toro Water District, as well as with some of our own educational opportunities. So,
okay, thank you very much. We'll go on to report of Resident Policy Compliance Task Force. Director Jarrett.
Okay, we did meet this month. We did bring you those two policies today. Those were, and I felt good that they were approved, the barbecue policy and the social media policy from this committee. And we will be meeting the next meeting will be May the 5th at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, thank you very much. On to GRF committee highlights. Community Activities Committee, Director Karimi. Reza, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I said my internet, I apologize, a little bit spotty. You go in and out. The community activity meeting was on March 11, and most of the issues that were discussed was discussed also by Mr. Parker and Mr. Foster in regard to the COVID and the pools opening and some of the other activities that they already discussed. A few items that I want to bring up that was discussed in the meeting was about some of the facilities. For example, pickleball now they can play doubles. The golf carts, they can ride 2 people on the cart and 4 golfers can play. On the garden center side, there are a lot of activities going on there. They're doing a lot of trimming and weeding in the garden centers, and the issue with the speed bump is being looked at in Garden Center 2, and there's about $5,000 for those speed bumps that need to be replaced plus labor. So there's a lot of discussion about how they're going to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, on to the Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Equestrian Ad Hoc Committee did meet on March 4th. It was a virtual meeting. A couple of highlights from that meeting. The first one is the Help the Herd corporate sponsorship. It was reported that there has been $5,000 raised already to date, with the goal of reaching $10,000 to help the herd. And so more information will be coming at the next meeting on that issue. Director Brown also reported that the Equine Assisted Living Program is proceeding very nicely with some risk management review. She also reported that the 3 instructors will be independent contractors, which includes a mental health provider, an equine associate, and vetted horses. And also, there is still an active search for school horses for the ridership program. So that search is ongoing, and more information will be to follow on that. The next meeting is to be announced, and it will be a virtual meeting. That is the end of my report. Thank you, President Parsons.
Okay, thank you very much. GRF Finance Committee, Director Muchnick.
Thank you, President Parsons. The GRF Finance Committee met on the 17th of February, and we had an extensive presentation by SageView. SageView is the financial advisor to GRF Finance Committee as well as to Third and United, and they provided an update on investments for GRF, Third, and United. And for the quarter, there was no trade activity. Year-to-date, net total return was 4.07%. All 3 portfolios, GRF, Third, and United, are heavily allocated to index funds, leading to a very low overall fund expense ratio of just 0.05%. Interest rates today are very low, in the range of 0 to less than 1% for many bonds, which means yields and returns going forward will likely continue to be lower than 1%. SageView suggested considering adding a small equity allocation, perhaps 10%, to the Vanguard's total stock market index. By doing this, SageView believes the portfolio can meaningfully improve its risk-adjusted return profile and create an opportunity to earn rates of return above inflation and closer to 2%. 90% of the portfolio would remain in high-quality investment-grade bonds. For those in Third Mutual, Third had approximately $25 million as of the 31st of December invested through SageView. The Third Finance Committee has asked SageView to present at the next Third Finance Committee meeting so that the committee can consider if it wants to add an equity allocation. Third Director Craig Wayne and I will be speaking with our SageView representation prior to the Finance Committee meeting to set the stage for the presentation and the discussion. The next meeting of the GRF Finance Committee is scheduled for April 21st at 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to GRF Landscape Committee, Director Karimi.
Lynn, can you take over that? My internet is on and off. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Director Jarrett, could you give a report in this area? If not, we can come back to that.
Okay. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, go ahead.
If I go out, just cut me off, please. So,
okay.
I apologize. Okay, on the Landscape Committee was on March 10. The meeting was on March 10. The report was that they're planting annuals at the gates in Gate 1, 5, 7, 8, and 10. So that's going to be going on in April. I think at the Equestrian Center, Annie talked about that. We talked about the capital's plan for irrigation and nursery. The greenhouse shade structure is being assembled. So they're going to put a powerful communication in nursery so they can keep up with the inventory in the nursery. The creek we passed the resolution for $13,000 consulting services for a biologist to look at the cattails before they've been cut. They're going to be cutting those cattails, but the nesting season for the birds are from, from February through October. So they're going to work on that from the upstream of the creek, 100 yards. Every other 100 yards, they're going to do the cutting in order not to disturb the nesting birds. And there was a question regarding the mulching mowers and staffing for that. That was pretty much going to be in the, we're going to bring it into the landscaping committee also before those final approval or at least or input from the third on that issue. That's the report for that. The next meeting is June 9th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, GRF Maintenance Construction Committee, Director Frankel.
The meeting was held on February 10th. The next meeting will be April 14th. We discussed a number of issues, but the 800-pound gorilla is the driving range, and it's somewhat contentious. The total cost is the total conceptual cost is $686,000. The big issues are the grading, drainage, ball collection, and a saddle to enhance the ball collection so it doesn't, the balls don't go outside. And we have a very fine consultant, and but nevertheless, the committee is not satisfied that they want to spend that much money. And so we're going to get another opinion of another consultant to review the total driving range concept. We talked also about the EV charging bollards, and a parking lot light location issue was discussed, and there was an on-site meeting on that issue. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments or questions to Director Frankel? Okay. On to Clubhouse 1 Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, Director Engdahl.
That's been very quiet lately. There hasn't been, I have not heard of anything going on there. Last meeting was about 4 or 5 months ago, and the next meeting is to be determined.
Okay, thank you very much. Media and Communications Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The March Media and Communications Committee meeting was canceled. The next scheduled meeting is April 19th at 11:30 a.m., and it will be a virtual meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Karimi.
Our next meeting is April 8th on that. We didn't have a meeting. No report. Thank you.
Okay. Security and Community Access Committee, Director Bada.
Security and Community Access Committee meeting was held on February 22nd. In that, we had all the usual conversations about the reports that were discussed by Chief Carlos. And the main item we discussed was Fire Alert, which is a device which is being considered to be installed in the kitchens that is connected to the stove to prevent fire. And it is still under discussion, trial, a certain number of units will be tried with, like a test, a pilot program, and a decision will be made whether it is going to be installed with the cost of to the mutual or to the resident. Decisions have not been reached yet. Our next meeting is going to be April 26th. Thank you.
Thank you. Disaster Preparedness Task Force, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The last Disaster Preparedness Task Force met in January, and a report was given at the February meeting. The next scheduled meeting is March 30th at 9:30 a.m., and it will be a virtual meeting.
Okay, thank you. Report of Laguna Woods Village traffic hearing, Director Dotson.
Actually, Director Frankel attended. There wasn't anything to discuss, so they had a 15-minute meeting and just to have their establish that there was a meeting. But our next meeting is tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. GRF Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee, Director Muchnick.
Thank you, President Parsons. The next meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee is tomorrow at 1:30. I reported last month on an update of what we had accomplished, the two subcommittees. So we'll have more for the next board meeting. And if it's okay with you, President Parsons, since next on the agenda is the Ad Hoc Budget Committee, I'll move directly into that. The Ad Hoc Budget Committee had its first meeting, which was very productive. A discussion of concerns about the budgeting process took place, and it was decided to reinstitute the meetings with different departments that had taken place in previous years but was not used last year. Since the Ad Hoc Budget Committee meeting, there are now Zoom meetings scheduled with the different boards with the following committees: Landscape, Maintenance and Construction, Human Resources, Information Services, Office of the CEO, Financial Services, Media and Communications, and Security. At the moment, given that all these workshops are scheduled for between now and the end of March, there is no next meeting scheduled for the Ad Hoc Budget Committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you're tracking next week, there are 10 meetings on the budget with the different departments, like Director Muchnick said. And the week after that, there are 4 more. So stand by for a lot of budget meetings. Okay, onward to item 15, future agenda items. Anything that needs to be changed or updated? A lot of these things are continuing on. So anything that needs to be added? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead with director's comments. And I'll start with Director Dotson.
Thank you. I just have a couple final comments. I want to again recognize the hard work of Eileen and the whole VMS team who made vaccinations in the village a reality. This was something remarkable, and we are very lucky and fortunate that we were able to partner with Memorial Care to facilitate that. I just want to really reiterate how unusual that was that this was able to be done, and to thank them for going out to those who couldn't get out there and making sure that they got vaccinated. And I want to go way back to something, and Director Bada also said this, is I do believe that at this point we should work diligently to remove any remaining issues with our management that is lingering from the ransomware. And I do hope that VMS management can speed up the process to take away that escrow requirement very soon. And other than that, it was a good meeting, and I appreciate that residents were able to speak in person and also to email us. And again, I'm always happy to hear from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Rain Sostak.
Yeah, great meeting. And the only comment I do have is in relationship to that vaccination program. This was the most amazing collaboration that I've seen in a long time. We had the collaboration between Memorial Care, the hospital, because it wasn't just the hospital. There were people from Memorial Care that also came down and served. Many of the board of the hospital were there on the lay side as well as on the professional side. But I did want to just mention that Eileen, who of course just did amazing work, was highlighted at yesterday's hospital board meeting, and they talked about the amazing work they did, and also commented on how pleasurable and how rewarding it was for them as professionals to work with everyone here, and how rewarding it was to be able to participate and provide the vaccines for so many of our residents. So it was just one of those win-wins, and it was really great to see. But I did want to make sure that Eileen knew that they acknowledged all that she has done and the pleasure of working with her. And Nat, great meeting.
Jared.
Did you call for me, Steve?
Yes, please.
Okay. I want to ditto what both Debbie and Donna said. Really, Eileen has been wonderful. And also, it's great that Jeff has keeps giving those updates that we look forward to on TV6 and at the board meetings. But Donna, I want to also say thank you, because I'm not sure, I'm proud of you, that one of our own board members could be one of the vaccinators. So thank you so much. And I thought we had a good meeting today. It was productive, and I appreciate everybody's support. And see you in a while. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director McCary?
I don't have any other comments. Thank you, Director Parsons.
Frankel?
The only comment I have is about tomorrow's traffic committee meeting. There's only 2 violations we'll be discussing. I'm not sure why the number of violations has dropped. It's probably got to do with this, the COVID issue, but anyway, we will be meeting again, traffic tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Director Muchnick?
Lynn Jarrett stole my thunder in thanking Director Sozak for giving out the vaccines. She did a wonderful job, and thank her for volunteering, especially thanking also Eileen for absolutely outstanding work. She was there day in and day out, 10, 12 hours a day. She brought family to help out and everything, so she deserves a tremendous round of applause from everybody in the village. And the last thing I'll say is I appreciate the fact that we've moved to Zoom, so now that we can have face-to-face interaction with our members. I think that's very positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Botta?
Thank you. I have 1 or 2, 3 things to say. First of all, Debbie, you stole my thunder because I was going to thank Eileen for her leadership and hosting this thing so well and making it possible for all our residents to get vaccinated, which is really tough to get outside the village. Also, I want to thank all the directors who volunteered that time and helped out at this event. Although I should not understate the work that our VMS staff did to get this thing done, the security and our management staff. The other thing I want to reiterate is that we need to work harder to get this escrows closed faster and prevent this $10,000 thing being held from the sellers, so it's not a burden to some people. So please pay attention to that and get it done as soon as possible. Lastly, I think some of you like to use Zoom, but Zoom is a handicapping software. Our GoToMeeting that we used had so much control for the user, as well as they have the same capability through a thing called GoToWebinar. It can host up to 3,000 people if you need to. So it is not a small company. They have been in business since the early 90s. Anyway, those are my comments. Please review it. Zoom, I hate to use because it can infiltrate on your private information. So in the big picture, I would still prefer to go with the GoToMeeting program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Wayne.
You calling me?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Reza.
Sorry about that. Everything that's said about COVID and all the things that. Also, I want to recognize all the members' participation in this meeting. That's extremely important. I want to recognize Gail, Karen, Sarah, and Jules that have stayed on this meeting and give us their input. That helped us to improve the processes. We appreciate that. I hope in the future we have more people participating and more people giving us their input so we can, do better job. We are not perfect. We want to be perfect, but, the help of the members going to be very appreciated. I recognize them that they supporting us and helping us to achieve our goal for the community. So their members, everything that we do is for the members, and their input is extremely appreciated. I want to thank him to stay with us and help us to improve things. That's my call.
Okay, thank you. Director Engdahl.
No other comment except to add my appreciation to everybody involved with the COVID-19 program. I think it just went amazingly smooth. The longest I had to wait in line was maybe 3 or 4 minutes. That was about it. I thought it went really well. Thank you. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Director Wayne, Craig Wayne.
Yes, I would like to mention the fact that I was one of Donna's victims. So I went in, and of course, she's got a mask on. I don't recognize her. And she looks at the name. She says, "Craig, this is me, Donna." and apparently she's done this before because it was totally painless. So thank you, Donna. I also think that this was a good meeting. I think it was good that we could have the people from the outside talking to us in the manner that they have today. And I'd like to see that we find some way to continue with this process in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna had a last minute comment.
Yes, my only comment was that the reason Director Muchnick was knew that I was there vaccinating is because he was there even more than I was. And so your board was well represented over there. And I think I saw Jeff over there as well from time to time. So it's just been quite an amazing thing, but I didn't want Director Muchnick to go unnoticed because, in fact, he was there even more than I was. So it was great.
Thank you. Jeff, parting comments on the open?
Nothing.
You're muted. Okay, Siobhan?
Yes, I just want to echo everyone's appreciation of Eileen and all the resident volunteers, including our board members. Just thank everyone for their wonderful teamwork to make this happen.
Okay. Is Jeff having problems with his mic there? I can't hear you. Okay. We'll continue on. Eileen, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Well, that was certainly very nice to hear. Thank you very much. And I just want to remind everybody, it really did literally, pardon the cliche, take a village. And it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. We do have a little wrap-up work to do. We're not going to leave anybody not taken care of. So we had a meeting last night. I won't go into the details, but we're not going to. Our goal is to leave no necessary arm unvaccinated. So you'll hear some more details. But again, it was such a great example of what private enterprise can do when everybody comes together. And Donna was amazing, as were several of our other residents who are RNs who came out of retirement to help. So I just am very proud. It's everything that's good about the village, and I'd like to kind of continue to concentrate on that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, any parting comments?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay. Is Grant on? Does he have any comments?
I have no comment, President Parsons. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping us organized in our meeting today, Grant. And I do appreciate the comments from everyone at large, all our residents. Like I said, keep your comments coming, and we will keep the communication line open to everyone.
Steve, you're underwater. Steve, you're underwater. You might want to click off and back on again.
Okay. Okay, we'll recess now until 12:30 and then come back on. Thank you very much.
Steve, I need to talk to you. I'm going to give you a call.
Okay.